Welcome to the Dear Young Married Couple podcast. Today, we're going to talk about what to do when I just don't get my spouse.
And this comes up often in counseling. It comes up often in our DMs, and people will make sentiments like this, like, I just don't get her, or I just don't get him. I can't get through to him. And so we're here to talk to you about what to say or what to do when you just don't get your spouse.
And first of all, let's just start off by saying that's pretty normal, I think.
Yes.
And it's a continual learning process. We are two completely different human beings, one. Two, biologically very, very different with different hormones going on. Different brains, different brain chemistry.
Yep.
So there's so much going on. We are different. We react to situations differently. We have different needs. And so in all of this, sometimes we don't get it. And getting it is very important for us, because once we start to get it, we start to understand the other person better, or we feel that we're understood, or they feel our pain. So there's more connection being made.
And we all want intimate connection.
Yeah.
That's our deepest desire, is to be fully known and fully loved.
Yeah.
And how can we be fully known and fully loved if our spouse is not even trying to get
Right.
us? Right. And so we know that you want that for your marriage. And so these will be some important tips to tune into.
So what we're going to be talking about, mainly kind of wrapping around, is maybe a one word that we could pull out that would help us understand what we're talking about, would be empathy. Not the most popular subject, but I would say it's crucial.
Yeah.
Absolutely crucial. And from my experience working with lots and lots and lots of couples, the reason why this is very important to talk about is that when people are in trouble in their marriage, generally one of the people or both have lost empathy for the other, or I just don't get them. So they stop trying.
Yep.
And when they can't put themselves in the other person's shoes, then stuff starts breaking down.
Yeah. And it's not to say that you can literally walk in their shoes. I mean, I'm not talking about physical shoes, but
Yeah,
it's not to
sandals.
say that you can literally think their thoughts and literally feel their feelings, but it's that you try to, and you try to understand. I was just having a conversation yesterday with someone who said, I don't know what it's like, because I've never felt that way, and I've never even had that type of thought.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, right. But what's important is that other question you asked yourself, because she asked herself this question: what would it take for me to feel that? What would it take for me to think that? And then you're actually starting to ask yourself, what's this person's story? Why do they think that and feel that?
Yeah.
And that's closer and closer toward empathy, toward putting yourself in the other person's shoes.
Right. There's a quote that says, everyone makes sense when you know their story. I love that quote.
Yes.
Which kind of goes into curiosity. And I think that curiosity and empathy have to be tied.
Oh, yeah.
They have to be very close, because in order to feel that for someone, you have to kind of go down with them, or go deeper with that person.
Right.
Like, let me hear, let me understand. So we're going to be talking about kind of unpacking this. And this especially, so the podcast we posted last week was mostly about the speaker, how to talk about difficult conversations. This one is kind of more for the listener, the person that may not agree that we need to have this conversation, or have a conversation.
Right.
Or just in general in a marriage. So this is really important.
Well, and, like Adam mentioned, everyone makes sense once you know their story. It doesn't mean that their behavior is excusable or that it's permissible. It's just saying, oh, I get why they acted that way. It's not necessarily okay, but you still need to be able to put yourself in an active listener role and empathize in order to connect, in order to help them heal or change their perspective or receive influence, depending on what it is that they're trying to convey.
Yeah. So just a very basic, starting kind of at the very basics with empathy and empathetic listening, would be body language. You would be amazed. So tell me about it. Like they close up and they lean back, and so when we have couples interacting on our, metaphorical couch,
Yeah.
They close down. Their body language says, I really don't want to listen to you.
The rolling of the eyes.
Rolling of the eyes.
Yep.
Their tone.
Yeah. Tone is a big one.
Yeah. So body language, turning towards someone, opening up a little bit in your just, how to do it.
Leaning in.
Yeah.
Both physically and emotionally. That's part of empathy. Because I think sometimes our tendency, sometimes it's to shut down and close ourselves off with our body language. Sometimes our tendency is to be overly optimistic.
Yeah.
So like if you just don't know what to say, sometimes you could say like something like, well, babe, it all happens for a reason, right? Or especially a guy with his fix-it cap, sometimes he'll try to be like,
let's find the silver lining.
Yeah, like, she'll forget about that tomorrow, and don't worry about it, babe. You don't need friends like that anyway. Just kind of trying to
downplay,
minimize it. Yeah, and that can be an overly optimistic way of not making her feel heard and understood.
And minimization really offends the person that's deeply hurt or deeply emotional, because it's invalidating that person's feelings.
Yep.
So when I say, it's okay, just get over it, that kind of thing, that's just it's like, well, no, you don't get it, right? Going back to that. So that's why people say you don't get it, because this is so heavy for me. I can't just shirk it off. I can't just let roll off my back. It's not doing that. And so you not listening to it just kind of offends that person. Like, why even try?
Yeah. Another way of not showing empathy that's pretty typical of spouses, especially men at times, is kind of letting the person know, like rationalizing what happened and not empathizing with the emotion that it caused. So the wife could be like, oh my goodness, like I had such a long day. Like I did not expect there to be a long line at Trader Joe's, and I needed to get home and make dinner before we left for church, and then I was behind, and she's trying to explain her overwhelm and her stress, and then the husband could say something like, well, what did you expect? Of course there's a long line. It's Friday night and it's payday. People, of course it's going to be a long, and that's not going to make her feel understood, or like that you understand like her emotional impact
or appreciated.
Yeah.
Right. So
true.
she stood in line for food for the house. And so her reaction is probably going to be more like, really? Like, you expect me to make dinner, but you're not going to give me any sort of like, empathy or leaning in for that. So, and then she's not going to want to do it next time.
Why do you think guys tend toward either fixing it or kind of like trying to tidy up everything rather than leaning in and going deeper with the emotion?
Because I think the guys in general are not comfortable with emotion.
Yeah.
So we're not willing to go there. So it's easier for us to just be like, hey, if you fall down, don't cry. Just brush it off. It's okay. That's what we do to little boys and train them up like, Sparta. Like,
you're okay.
You're okay. It's fine. So when it comes to emotions, guys are not very trained. So we'd avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas a woman, she's more likely to feel like the conversation was a success if you actually got messy and deep and empathized with the pain.
Absolutely. Well, that relieves it for her. And it also speaks more to a man's accomplishment, because men are driven by accomplishment.
That's true.
Right? Like, I want to feel good by solving this problem for my wife, because that would make me feel good.
Right.
I want to make you feel good and happy.
Yeah.
I don't like to see you sad. So by me stepping in and being like the knight in shining armor and fix it for you, you should see me happy. You should look at me and go, wow, that's my husband that just fixed everything for me. Don't go at 5, go at 7. It's never busy at the store then.
Right.
And she's like, you didn't get it.
That's true. Yeah. I didn't think about that accomplishment piece.
Yeah.
Like I've heard, in Love and Respect, Dr. Emerson Eggerichs talks about like the man's desire to provide counsel, but I never put it in the context of like the accomplishment and that conquest, and they're actually related.
Why do you think it relieves a woman to like talk about it rather than just get straight to solution?
I think because if she can have someone else share in that pain or in that emotion, then she feels validated. She doesn't feel like she's crazy or weird. And when a woman feels like she's out of line or like she's over the top or crazy, then she doesn't feel like she's enough. And then that goes back to like her identity issues and self-esteem issues. But if you can empathize, then she goes, oh, okay, I'm not insane. Like he gets it. I'm okay.
And then you can move then to solution. Then you'll be open to solution.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But until then, you feel weird still.
But like if the man can be like, oh man, I bet that was overwhelming. Was it hot too? Like standing out there in the sun and, and kind of empathize and then
putting yourself there and then asking questions about it.
And then the man can say something like, I wonder if it would be helpful next time to go later, like, I don't know, 6, 7, kind of like brainstorm it with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I like that. I'm going to try that.
All right. So we're talking about how to show empathy. We're giving you some concrete examples.
What goes wrong? So we talked about what to do with your body, like turning toward, eyes, eye language. Don't be on your phone, like
Right.
That's not going to go over very well.
Yep.
So just being attuned, being there, being available. Next would be noticing her emotion. So, and Carissa, you already alluded to that. So that. Oh, you look sweaty. Was it super hot out there? So kind of like tuning into what she may be feeling. Sometimes that kind of like guesswork can go a long way. You seem a little sad. You know, rather than saying what's wrong.
Yes. Also naming the emotion exactly. We actually had an argument this week about this particular dilemma. So like,
yes, we do have arguments sometimes.
I was feeling anxious about something and he labeled that as freaking out. And I was like, in what way was that freaking out? Like I didn't raise my voice. I didn't yell. I didn't get angry even. I said I was just anxious. And so he's like, he took influence. He's like, okay, I'm sorry. Let me label it what it was. So you were anxious, and he's like, it seems like you get anxious when, and then he started to identify that for me. And that was so helpful because I was like, yes, you get me. You got that I was anxious. It wasn't that I was freaking out, because then that makes me feel like I'm some, monster or weird or over the top.
Yeah. And that's just a really good tip there, is don't label things, because that's what I made it mean. Right? That wasn't objectively freaking out.
Right.
But to me, she was above baseline, and her words had a little bit more bite than normal.
Edge, I think you called it, right?
Yeah. And I didn't like that. It didn't set well on me. So I called it freaking out, which didn't set well with her.
Which made me even more anxious and even more edgy.
Yeah. We did work through this pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, we stopped the cycle, and I was thankful Adam took the initiative to stop the cycle first. And it was very leading of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, so this is something that I just see in counseling so often, is that people argue, and we're not talking about conflict resolution, but this is just helpful. People argue to win a lot of times.
That's true.
Like, I want her to admit that I was right. And then we just tooth and nail, even though they have like no track record of any of that happening. Where is this like idea that this is going to really work come from?
Yes.
Right? So they've been doing this for the last 5 years. You're not going to get a huge admission from them or whatever. So I simply said something to the effect that this is not going anywhere productive. Neither one of us are going to win in this. And then I apologized for labeling, freaking out, and a couple of other things.
And then I apologized for bringing in a tertiary issue that had nothing to do with what we were talking about, because I was anxious. And so my mine was racing and going to a tertiary issue.
I was like, where did that come from? Yeah. And then that, it's triggered me. So it's just, we probably need to do one on conflict resolution.
True.
But that's just, noticing the emotion. That's what we're trying to drive for.
And I think the empathy here is what stopped our cycle. We were kind of getting in that cycle of trying to win or feeling uncherished, unloved, and then
she felt attacked.
You felt disrespected.
Yep, totally.
And so we were kind of in that crazy cycle that Dr. Emerson Eggerichs discusses in Love and Respect. But then I think you were able to interrupt that simply by empathizing.
Yeah.
By saying like, okay, you're right. It was not freaking out. It was anxious. And it seems like you get anxious when... And you shared that, and I was like, yes, you're getting it. Like, that's exactly it.
Yeah. Okay, so this kind of leads into the last or the second one or third one.
Okay.
This kind of leads into the third one.
Okay.
Sharing your feelings, but after you've listened. It sounds kind of like this. So, like, man, I feel so helpless in this situation. I wish I can help you. Mm-hmm. Like, or maybe she's sick. Like, man, like. You seem really sick. Is there anything I can get you? Or I can't imagine how it's hurting you right now. Man, I wish I could take your, be in your place, but man, it's just kind of being willing to be uncomfortable with them in the conversation.
Yeah. So it's like you let them have their moment, you empathize with them, and then you let them know how you're responding emotionally to it to try to put yourself in their shoes. And your emotion may not be exactly what the other person's emotion is. And that's okay.
Normally they know what you're trying to do, but it's not like they don't appreciate it. It's more like, no, I'm not really feeling sad. It's just I'm feeling off or like melancholy or something. They'll normally correct you. It's been my experience though.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're sharing it must feel this way about the other person, but also expressing how you feel about it. Like you've often said when I'm having like just a woman day, you'll say something like, babe, I feel a bit helpless right now. Like, help me help you.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're sharing your own feeling, but you're letting me know, like, you're here for me. You're empathizing with me. And if you can be helpful, let me know how.
Right. And so this is kind of the last part of this is, how can you be helpful? That's a really wonderful way of doing it.
Yeah.
What you already said is help me help you.
Mm-hmm.
Just keeping that sentence in mind going into a conflict or having a conflict and not understanding the other person, that question really opens up a lot because they're like, okay, they want to help me, but how can I how do I give them the instructions to fix me, right? Which is really liberating for some people.
Yeah. Or just to be there for me because it may not be that they need you to fix them, but just to be there for them or give them space or give them a break and take the kids for a walk, while they just take a nap or whatever it is.
Right. If anything you take away from this, like, it's just questions. Be curious. Tell me how that was for you. Like, if you can't guess at what the emotion they're feeling, you have no idea. Say that. I have no idea what's going on. Like, help me understand.
Yeah.
Tell me how that was for you. How are you feeling in that situation? Just kind of getting it from different angles and opening them up really opens them up for you. And this is where you can kind of transition from there to, how can I help? How can I be of service?
Yeah. Or can we work on a solution together, depending on what it is?
Yeah.
But really empathizing with where they are is such a crucial step that we often miss. So we hope you're able to learn about this step, learn from our situation just this past week, and let us know if you have any tips that you would provide on this, or maybe an experience or argument you want to share.
Yeah, empathy is so particular to the situation. All the stems in the world won't prepare you for from a hard moment.
Yeah.
So it's just being willing to listen, to be completely engaged, attuned, and asking good questions if the opportunity arises. And following your gut, following your heart in it, because you love this person. So being willing to experience that love.
So we hope you got a lot out of it. Stay connected with us throughout the week on Instagram.
Yes.
At Dear Young Married Couple. And we also have a really cool opportunity coming up. We're pretty excited about it. It's our first ever online virtual marriage retreat. We've done some marriage retreats in person with different churches. We've done some marriage seminars and retreats online, especially during COVID, but they've been for particular churches where it's closed to the members of that church. And so people have said, hey, I really want to be a part of one of these, or how can I join? How can I go to one? So we heard you, and we are providing our very own virtual marriage retreat. It's going to be fun.
You're not going to want to miss it. So check out the details. Just go to our Instagram, and we have links.
Yeah, we'll link it here in the show notes too.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.